Djokovic surprises Carlos Alcaraz and all his fans with this message. After falling at the US Open against Carlos Alcaraz, the Serbian has surprised everyone with words full of sincerity, making it clear that his fight is not over yet. What he said has impacted his followers and also the fans of the player from Murcia. Because Djokovic, far from hiding, confessed what he really feels when facing Alcaraz and Sinner on the big stages. Novak Djokovic, at 38 years old, is still a fierce competitor, but this season the names of Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have become his biggest obstacle. The Serbian admitted it after his elimination in the semifinals of the US Open. The best of 5-set duels against them are an almost impossible challenge. He has not managed to win even a single set in his last 3 Grand Slam matches against these two giants of the new generation, something that had never happened before in his career. The most striking thing was his reflection after the defeat against Alcaraz. Djokovic confessed that, although it is frustrating not being able to display on court everything that used to come naturally to him, he understands that the years take their toll and that age plays a key role. However, he made his unbreakable mentality clear: "I will not give up and I'm going to keep fighting." A statement that reflects his greatness, because accepting difficulties does not mean resignation, but rather drawing strength to move forward. But there was one detail that impacted even more. Djokovic assured that, if he has to lose to someone, he prefers it to be against players like Alcaraz or Sinner. His words show deep respect toward the new generation and, at the same time, an acceptance that they are worthy rivals to shape the future of tennis. It is a gesture that, coming from someone who has won 24 Grand Slams, reveals his ability to value the greatness of others. In addition, Novak explained why he continues competing. Beyond the titles, what motivates him is the affection of the public and the passion for the sport. He stated that feeling the support of the crowd keeps him energized to keep playing, even when the results are no longer the same as before. This human side of Djokovic, so competitive and so demanding with himself, surprised many, since he showed a more emotional facet, different from the tireless warrior usually seen on the court. These words from Djokovic not only reflect the difficulty of facing Alcaraz and Sinner, but also the beginning of a new era in tennis. The legend recognizes that the future belongs to the new generations, but at the same time reaffirms that he still has much to offer. His fight continues, and although time passes, his competitive spirit does not disappear. Djokovic has publicly congratulated Carlos Alcaraz for his US Open title. A gesture that confirms the respect between them and that, beyond the rivalry on the court, there is mutual recognition that makes this new story in tennis even greater. What do you think? Will Djokovic be able to impose himself again, or is the Alcaraz era here to stay? Subscribe and leave me your comment. Harsh criticism from a tennis legend over the dominance of Alcaraz and Sinner: "It bothers me that they settle." Boris Becker lashes out at the players who should be fighting with the Italian and the Spaniard for Grand Slam titles. He does not understand the complacency. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner have established a dominance in world tennis that, as of today, seems relentless. The Spaniard and the Italian have split the last 8 Grand Slams. Novak Djokovic, the last one to win a major before Carlos and Jannik began imposing their duopoly. Novak has not been able to keep up physically with the world's number 1 and 2, especially in 5-set matches. However, neither Djokovic nor any of the top 10 players have been able to interrupt the dominance of Carlos and Jannik. Boris Becker, legend of tennis, directly lashes out at these players for settling and not fighting hard enough to try to beat Alcaraz and Sinner. Alexander Zverev, Jack Draper, Taylor Fritz, Alex de Minaur, Casper Ruud, Holger Rune, Daniil Medvedev, Andrei Rublev, and Karen Khachanov. What bothers me about them is that they settle for being second or third. Quarterfinals are fine, or semifinals are fine. No, they are not fine if you want to be the best tennis player in the world. They are always saying, "Yes, Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz are much better than us." Well, why do you think that? Becker said in statements to Eurosport. The German wanted to be even more forceful and pointed to the only player, beyond Alcaraz, who has played with personality against Sinner. "Now I go back to that semi-final between Sinner and Felix Auger alias Sime." Finally someone thought strategically, how can I become dangerous for Sinner? Logically, don't get into long rallies on the baseline, but play as flat and fast as possible. It's not rocket science. You don't need to study philosophy, Becker concluded. Carlos Alcaraz crushes Nadal, Federer and Djokovic at 22 years old. With the US Open won this Sunday against Jannik Sinner, the player from Murcia now has 6 Grand Slams at just 22 years, 4 months and 2 days. At his young age and with the goal of at least matching the 3 greatest tennis players in history, Carlos Alcaraz is tracing a better path than the big 3 with just over 22 years old. At 22 years, 4 months and 2 days, the player from Murcia has already lifted 6 Grand Slams, 2 US Opens, 2022, 2025, 2 Roland Garros, 2024, 2025, and 2 Wimbledons, 2023, 2024. Rafa Nadal, for his part, had won 5 majors at that age, 4 Roland Garros, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, and 1 Wimbledon, 2008. However, Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic had only lifted 1 major. While the Swiss did it at Wimbledon 2003, the Serbian managed it at the 2008 Australian Open. These are only data, and Alcaraz's trajectory will be marked by his consistency and physical condition, but the trend of the new world number 1 invites dreaming. This is how Sinner felt against Carlos Alcaraz at the US Open. He perceived that he was more powerful than him. Filippo Volandri, captain of the Italian Davis Cup team, assures that it's useless to dwell on it regarding what happened in the final of the 4th and last Grand Slam of the year. There aren't many more secrets. On the other side of the net he found an opponent who was superior until the end. It's useless to dwell on it. This is how forcefully Filippo Volandri spoke during an interview with Uba Tennis when asked about the US Open final last Sunday between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. The captain of the Italian Davis Cup team does not hide that the player from Murcia was at a much higher level than his compatriot. Since the start of the tournament we had noticed Alcaraz's improvements and state of grace, focusing above all on his serve and his physical condition. Even when Jannik managed to win the rally, looking for the acceleration, Carlos responded with an even stronger shot, putting pressure on his rival, he explained. Sinner perceived on court that his rival was more powerful than him, that he even served better than him. All of that was taking away his points of reference and reducing his confidence, he added. That said, despite the errors, he trusts his pupil. To this day, I still believe that Sinner is the best in the world playing under pressure, but it is true that in this final he was not able to sustain it in the best way, committing several unforced errors with his forehand at key moments, such as the break points. It has already been almost a week since Carlos Alcaraz reigned at Arthur Ashe and was crowned US Open champion. A very solid victory against Sinner that returned him to the top of the ATP ranking and gave him the 6th Grand Slam of his career. He is only 22 years old, but he has already reached heights that place him among one of the most outstanding tennis players in history. But he wants more. In his head is to win more and more titles, and it seems inevitable that this will happen. The player from El Palmar is on everyone's lips and, as usual, comparisons of his figure with that of Rafa Nadal, winner of 22 Grand Slams and the second best in history in this section, do not stop. Nadal, who participated this Thursday in a charity golf tournament at the Real Club de Golf de la Herreria in San Lorenzo de El Escorial, once again praised before the media the trajectory of his compatriot, assuring that it is heading toward being unique. The Balearic affirmed that obviously he can be one of the greatest in history, although he stressed that he must take it step by step. Hopefully he can have a very long career, which is what he also needs to reach certain numbers, and hopefully injuries respect him and everything goes great for him. The legendary Spanish tennis player, who described as incredible that Alcaraz has 6 Grand Slams at his age, also wanted to give him some advice to continue growing. He must enjoy the moment, which is brilliant, and keep working to achieve goals, improve, train every day with the desire to be better at something. Even if you are the best in the world, there is always room for improvement in things, and that is the daily motivation. Enjoy the day-to-day and then we will see how everything evolves. In life, goals are very important and you must have them in the short, medium and long term, he reflected. Nadal wanted to highlight the advice Federer gave Alcaraz about thinking about a 5-year future, something the Balearic does not see as something very short-term. 5 years is a lot, and more in tennis, where at any moment things can change drastically, he said. Rivalry with Sinner. Regarding the former Swiss tennis player, the Big Three and the new relentless dominance of Alcaraz and Sinner on the circuit, Rafa Nadal did not want to enter into comparisons about who is better or worse. They are Sinner and Carlos and we were us, and that's it. In the end, everyone has to live their story, each story is different, and there is no need to be comparing all the time. Let's enjoy this great rivalry and stop comparing, he pointed out. According to him, the Big Three marked an era by changing the numbers that had been achieved up to that moment, while Alcaraz and Sinner have the advantage that they already have numbers set that serve as their finish line.